A chilling tale of betrayal. The Joel Guy Jr. case. "Get out! We're clear! There's blood everywhere! Do you want to back out?" The words echoed through the halls as officers stepped into a scene so nightmarish, so utterly inhuman, that it would haunt them for years to come. What should have been a routine welfare check at the Guy family home on November 28, 2016, turned into the discovery of one of the most shocking crimes in Tennessee's history. Dismembered limbs, a severed head boiling in a pot on the stove, and a home transformed into a blood-soaked slaughterhouse were just the beginning of this gruesome tale. This wasn't a random act of violence or the work of a stranger. This is not just a story of murder. It's a story of betrayal so profound that it defies comprehension. A story that forces us to confront the darkest corners of the human psyche. Before we delve into the chilling details, we must warn you. The events described here are deeply disturbing and graphic. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. To fully grasp the magnitude of this tragedy, we must begin with the victims, Michael and Lisa Guy. Their lives, their love, and their unwavering dedication to family make the horror of what happened to them all the more unbearable. Michael Guy Sr., known affectionately as Mike to friends and family, was born on February 10, 1955. From an early age, he embodied the values of hard work, kindness, and determination. These qualities carried him through his career as a pipeline engineer, a profession that required precision, perseverance, and long hours. Yet, despite his demanding job, Michael was always a family man first. Michael's life before meeting Lisa included a marriage that resulted in 3 daughters. Although the marriage ended in divorce, Michael remained deeply involved in his daughters' lives. He was the kind of father who would move mountains to ensure his children felt loved and supported. His daughters described him as a pillar of strength, a man who valued family above all else. When Michael met Lisa, his life entered a new chapter of love and happiness. Lisa, born on December 31, 1964, was a woman of boundless warmth and compassion. Her natural ability to connect with others made her a beloved figure in every circle she entered. She was the kind of person who remembered the little things that made people feel special, whether it was a favorite snack, a cherished memory, or a kind word at just the right moment. When Michael and Lisa married, they didn't just blend their lives, they created a sanctuary of love and stability. Lisa embraced Michael's daughters with open arms, treating them not as stepchildren, but as her own. She was more than a stepmother. She was a friend, a confidant, and a source of unwavering support. One of Michael's daughters would later testify to Lisa's kindness, recounting how Lisa made her feel welcome and loved from the very beginning. Professionally, Lisa worked in human resources at an engineering firm. Her colleagues admired her not only for her dedication to her work, but also for her genuine care for others. Whether it was offering a helping hand to a coworker in need or organizing events to boost morale. Lisa's presence was a light in the lives of those around her. Together, Michael and Lisa built a life that many would envy. Their home in Knoxville, Tennessee, was a reflection of their personalities, warm, inviting, and filled with love. They were not wealthy by extravagant means, but they were rich in the ways that mattered. A happy marriage, strong family bonds, and a commitment to living life with integrity and generosity. Their life was not without challenges, but Michael and Lisa faced them together, as a team. They were known for their kindness and their willingness to help others, often going out of their way to support friends, neighbors, and extended family. To those who knew them, they were a model couple, 2 people who had found their soulmates and built a life of mutual respect and love. In 1988, the couple welcomed their only biological child together, Joel Michael Guy Jr. His arrival was a moment of joy for the family. As their youngest and only son, Joel Jr. became the center of Michael and Lisa's world. They poured their love and resources into giving him the best life possible. As a child, Joel Jr. was described as intelligent and introverted. He showed promise in his studies and seemed destined for a bright future. Michael and Lisa spared no expense in supporting their son's ambitions, paying for his education, and providing him with a comfortable life even into adulthood. Michael and Lisa's dedication to their children was unwavering. For their 3 daughters from Michael's previous marriage, Lisa was a source of stability and love. For Joel Jr., they were providers and protectors, ensuring he never lacked anything he needed. Even as Joel grew older, entering his late 20s, Michael and Lisa continued to support him financially. They covered his tuition, his living expenses, and anything else he needed while he pursued his studies. While some might have encouraged their child to become more independent, Michael and Lisa saw their continued support as an extension of their love. They believed they were giving Joel Jr. the tools he needed to build a successful and fulfilling life. But this unwavering support came at a cost. As Michael approached his 60s, he began to contemplate retirement. After decades of hard work, he and Lisa dreamed of spending their golden years traveling, enjoying the simple pleasures of life, and cherishing time with their family. Yet their financial obligations, largely tied to supporting Joel Jr., weighed heavily on their plans. In late 2016, Michael and Lisa made a difficult decision. They planned to retire and sell their Knoxville home, downsizing to a more manageable lifestyle. With this decision came another. It was time for Joel Jr. to become financially independent. For most parents, this would be a natural step in their child's journey to adulthood. But for Michael and Lisa, this decision would unknowingly seal their fate. Jennifer had been looking forward to seeing Lisa on Friday. The plan was straightforward. Lisa would wrap up her final tasks and say her goodbyes before leaving the company for good. When she didn't show up, Jennifer's concern turned to worry. It wasn't like Lisa to simply disappear, especially when there were no signs of anything unusual in the lead-up to the day. Lisa was known for her dedication and her warm, cheerful demeanor, so the thought that she wouldn't come to work was out of character. Jennifer decided to visit Lisa's house to check in. What she found was unexpected and unsettling. As the officers had already discovered, the house had a for sale sign out front, which at first glance appeared to be normal. The neighborhood was used to it. But as Jennifer approached the front door, something caught her eye, a subtle but troubling detail. There was no lockbox on the front door, which meant there was no way for a realtor to access the house without the homeowner's assistance. The doorknob itself was unusual. It didn't match the surrounding door, and it had evident marks of recent tampering. The officers' initial approach had been cautious, but the more they examined the scene, the clearer it became that something was amiss. They decided to check the back of the house, hoping to find clues that might explain Lisa's absence. What they saw next sent a shiver down their spines. The back door was missing its doorknob entirely, leaving behind an exposed dark hole. One of the officers peered through it and immediately felt the intense heat seeping out from inside. It was as if a furnace had been lit in the house. But what made the situation even more alarming was the sudden, sharp chemical odor that wafted out. It was strong, pungent, and unmistakable. Something was terribly wrong. The officers knew they needed to push forward. They entered the house, their flashlights sweeping through the rooms, revealing the scene in the dim, suffocating air. The first thing they discovered was a table set up with 2 wallets and a sledgehammer on top. As they moved further into the house, they found another table with long guns, a chilling sign that violence had already occurred or was planned. The air grew heavier as they continued their search, their flashlights cutting through the shadows. They could hear a dog barking in the distance, its sound erratic and worried. The officers moved cautiously toward the sound, eventually discovering Michael Guy's body sprawled across the hallway. The scene was chaotic. Torn blinds hung from broken window frames, blood spattered across the walls, and an overturned Bowflex machine lay broken and twisted on the floor. The struggle that had occurred here was evident. The coroner's report would later reveal that Michael had been stabbed at least 40 times. The brutality of the scene left investigators in shock, with the medical examiner noting that many of the injuries had shredded his clothes and left his body in a state of disarray. The search led them upstairs, where they made a shocking discovery: Lisa's dismembered body. She had been brutally stabbed at least 31 times, her injuries so severe that 9 of her ribs had been completely severed. To add to the horror, Lisa's head had been placed into a boiling pot on the stove, a final act that seemed designed to destroy any trace of evidence. The officer's investigation revealed more evidence that spoke to the meticulous planning behind the crime. Bottles of hydrogen peroxide, muriatic acid, drain opener, plastic bins, gloves, and trash bags were scattered throughout the house. There was even a note inside an open suitcase that referenced a nearby Ace hardware store in Louisiana, where Joel had bought the materials needed for his plan. It was evident that Joel had spared no detail in preparing to cover his tracks. The true extent of Joel's preparations was made clear when they found his notebook. Tucked away in his backpack, it was filled with meticulous notes detailing every step of his plan. The pages described everything from choosing the right tools to the most efficient methods for dismemberment, the chemicals he would use to dissolve flesh, and how he planned to erase any trace of his involvement. He even described setting a fire to the house to destroy any remaining evidence, believing it would be a foolproof way to cover his tracks. He detailed how he would fabricate an alibi by scheduling a text message from Lisa's phone to make it appear as though she had sent a message after her death. Joel had spent weeks preparing for this moment. He bought supplies like knives, plastic bins, and chemicals, paying in cash to avoid leaving any trace of his purchases. His plan was so extensive that it was almost as if he believed he could outwit the police and the world around him. But the final critical mistake was the notebook itself, a detailed manifesto that spelled out his plan in chilling detail. His arrogance, his sense of entitlement, and his delusion that he could get away with anything were evident in the pages. Even as the investigation unfolded, Joel had continued his daily life, convinced that he would be free from suspicion. His behavior became a topic of discussion during the trial, which was both heartbreaking and infuriating for the family and friends who were left behind to process what had happened. Joel's defense team tried to portray him as a kind, misunderstood man who could not possibly commit such horrific acts. They argued that he was friendly and sociable, but the jury didn't buy it. The evidence was damning, from the bloody scene to the detailed plan in his notebook. The prosecution made it clear that Joel had been a man who had plotted the murders down to the most minute detail. During the trial, the testimony from the forensic experts painted an even clearer picture of the depth of Joel's depravity. The officers described their reactions as they pieced together what had happened, explaining how even seasoned investigators were taken aback by the horror of the crime. The evidence was not just physical, but also psychological, revealing the twisted mindset of a man who believed that his parents were obstacles to his own sense of entitlement and ambition. On October 2, 2020, Joel Guy Jr. was found guilty of 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder, 3 counts of felony murder, and 2 counts of abuse of a corpse. The jury found him not just guilty, but undeniably culpable for the murder of his parents. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and his appeal to overturn the conviction was denied in April 2023 by the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals. The decision sealed his fate, ensuring that Joel would spend the rest of his life in the Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville, Tennessee. In the weeks following the conviction, a surprising revelation came to light. Despite the heinous nature of his crime, Joel had one friend, Michael McCracken, who had known him from high school. Their friendship was marked by periods of closeness and separation. They had lived together in high school dorms and, after Joel transferred to Louisiana State University, had reunited when Michael's roommate moved out. The nature of their relationship was never fully disclosed, and some speculated that there might have been romantic elements, but that remained unconfirmed. When questioned about Joel, Michael revealed that he was not surprised by the actions Joel had taken. He explained that Joel had become increasingly reclusive over the years, disappearing for long periods and spending days at a time holed up in his room. Michael noted that Joel's behavior had grown more erratic, isolating himself and displaying the kind of dark, obsessive tendencies that can go unnoticed until it's too late. Michael said that while he had seen Joel's darker side, he never imagined it would manifest in such horrific violence. The case of Joel Guy Jr. serves as a cautionary tale about the depths of human nature, entitlement, and the capacity for evil. It raises questions about how we can miss the signs of someone who is capable of such violence, despite being in the midst of their lives. It also highlights the extent to which someone can plan and prepare for a crime, thinking they can outwit the system, only to be undone by their own hubris and the evidence they leave behind. Joel's story is one of psychological complexity. A man who believed he was above the law, whose entitlement and twisted ambition drove him to commit unimaginable acts. His conviction and life sentence were a form of justice, but for the loved ones left behind, the impact of his crimes will never truly fade. He will be remembered not as a misunderstood genius, but as a man who failed to understand the simple truth. Actions have consequences.